Hmm. There we go. All right, welcome back, you landlubbers. Today is a new day. It's actually been a whole day since our last stream, but it was a little bit too hot yesterday to work in the van. In fact, it's a little too hot today. It's about 90 degrees in here. We got the air conditioning going. We'll see how long I can do this stream for. There actually might not even be that much for us to go over yet because, well, I just worked from a coffee shop yesterday and got a whole bunch of things done that I want to go over. Um, And so I think picking up from last time, what we discussed was the laying the foundations, right? So we're starting a new business. We are going to try and make enough money to get us into a new rig because we are currently in a van recording this live. In fact, we're just going to do live streams. I am not, I can't sit here and do the whole mixing of videos and editing and all that. I don't have time for that stuff. All right. So we're going to do live streams. You're going to come along on this journey with me and we're going to build a business to make enough money to buy a new rig to live in. So here's the goal, right? I mean, that is our goal. But here's what we're going to do today. Here's the agenda. Today, we're going to go over the things that I got done yesterday at the coffee shop, the code that I wrote. I'm going to run through it. And it's really going to lay the foundations for us to be able to quickly iterate, deploy new websites, SaaS products. And I think what might even do is sell some products that are one offs, like one time payments for version one kind of thing. And we'll go from there. So, in order to get that started, I'm gonna just sound effects. Going to take this here and we are going to capture our monitor. Hopefully this works. Maybe. Okay. New plan. Bear with me 1 second while I figure out how this stuff works. So I think the theme of yesterday was like, start before you're ready. And we definitely did that. Looking back at the audio afterwards, oh my gosh, it was completely out of sync with this microphone. I'm hoping I solve some of those issues. And, I guess we'll find out once we watch this recording again here. The goal of this right now is to get our display working properly here so you can see what I'm seeing. There we go. All right, now, if I were to go like this, then we zoom in over here. Let's see if we can get this working. Let's see. Bear with me. We're going to be doing a lot of stuff live. This is not going to be some sort of pre-rehearsed, pre-practiced. I mean, hopefully I'll get better at doing this as we go, but till such time, I guarantee there's going to be some pauses in here. So let me figure that out real quick. Hmm. Pretty weird. Says we're on this display. We have a capture for it. It doesn't want to show up. Very, very odd. Could be why. That could be why. Now it's the wrong size. Like that. You know what? We're going to have to go with this for now, just like this. I don't love doing. Oh, hey. I think I just figured it out. Okay. Hello. Maybe. Maybe not. Guys, they don't make this stuff easy. Let me tell you. They do. Oh, what do you know? How did that happen? All right. We got it. We're golden. We are golden. Let's do this. Boom. Do. All right. And 1, 2. There we go. See if this works. Now, I'm really hoping that this screen isn't too small, so I'm just going to try and blow up some of this stuff here so that everyone can see it. All right, so we basically, or yesterday what it did was I went through and I thought about if we're going to lay the foundations for a website, we need to have some just real core things, right? Like we need a foundation layer, and that should include all of the things that, you know, we're going to have to use on every single app. So I'm talking stuff like user login, sign up, forgot password, sending emails, you know, all the managing organizations, adding users, memberships, permissions, all that kind of stuff, right? Like what does all of that involve? And the way I'm going to do this, the way I ended up doing this is I went through and basically separated things into two different places, right? Like I started with a Rails engine. And if you look at a normal like Rails application, right? So like, let's take like this example right here. And inside of here, let's go to like config and maybe in our application, right? So if you look at a normal Rails application, what we're going to end up with here is this Rails application that thing like inherits from. And the interesting thing about Rails application is that it is actually, in fact, a Rails engine. And you might not realize that it's a Rails engine, but if I were to pull up this guy here and then maybe blow it up if I can so people can see it, a Rails application actually is an engine, right? So at the very base layer, we have this concept of Rails engines, and then they layer in like all of this extra stuff. And this sounded like a really good way to build a foundation for me because, you know, if you're going to build a foundational like base class for something, you want to build your base class and then you want to inherit from it. So, you know, I'm going to hopefully keep this stream like about vibe coding, but I'm an engineer at heart, and so before we start vibe coding things, I think I have to lay some solid foundational engineering architecture stuff. So I just want to go kind of like go over that real quick so that you understand, why I'm doing some of the things that I'm doing here. And so basically now what we have are these engines here. And we have like this foundational engine. And the nice thing about this is every single one of our apps, all they have to do, if we go and we look at something like the router, um, all they're going to do is implement another engine, right? So like I jumped ahead here a little bit too quickly, but if we look at this app here, it's actually mounting an engine. Like this is the whole app. All it is like this thin thing that mounts an invoice app engine. And, let me take a step back and explain some of the decisions that I made here. Basically, if you want to start a project, you want it to have the littlest amount of complexity, the one cool feature to get it done. Okay. So I actually like started working on this foundation thing some time ago to just have it so that I could build an app quickly, and I kind of like let it sit for a long time and didn't come back to it until I had this recognition to like start doing the stream. So I pulled this code back up again recently and said, hey, let's like actually finish this thing up. Let's get it into a place where we can like ship stuff and deploy something. But I didn't want to spend my whole day yesterday coming up with like the coolest new web app that we could possibly make and spend all my time, iterating on some complex piece of machinery that really all we needed was just a simple demo app. Now, I think the like standard Rails demo app is probably like creating a post blog type thing, and that's cool. But I actually needed this like invoice. I needed to generate an invoice the other day, and so I was like, hey, I'll just throw this invoice thing in there and we'll call this our app. So the simplest thing we could possibly do is build a piece of invoicing software in my mind, because it touches down on a whole bunch of things. And I also wanted to see if the AI models were good enough at this point where they could separate this idea of, if I use the word invoice, that will it understand that that's like the product I'm building, versus does it think that like I'm trying to send like an invoice through Stripe and it like conflate the two things, which it kind of did. So I had to fix the agents.md and explain that like the invoicing app is our app. So I'm going to circle back around to that in a few minutes, but just to get back to our foundational layer here, um, if we start top down, we have this app. This app, we went through and showed that it has a route which mounts our invoice app engine, right? And that invoice app engine is actually down here. And this invoice app engine is just a Rails engine. There is no app. So it actually doesn't even mount like an endpoint or anything. You have to mount it into something. So in order to do that, they have these things called test dummies. And a test dummy is actually a full-fledged like Rails application in here. So this whole thing is a Rails application. I mean, if you go in here, you're going to find like controllers and all the other patterns, right? Like that people have with this kind of stuff. And so inside of here is where our invoice app, if we're like running our tests, they're going to mount onto that test dummy engine, that test dummy app. Because the engine itself, you can't just like run an engine. It needs an app to be mounted on. Which, don't even get me started, is like breaking half the Ruby tooling, because they just assume that you're always in, when you open your root level directory like that, they're going to find the Rails app in there, when the reality is that some of these things are just engines and they don't have Rails apps. You have to look in the test dummy directory. Okay. So our invoice app, right? If we go in here and we look, we have these routes, which are also mounting the foundation engine. So we basically have a whole bunch of things up here now that is like the functionality of this application, which is pretty simple. You know, we've got some like organizations, invoices, customers, all that kind of stuff. What we also have is a foundation engine. Again, this is another engine that we're mounting. So let's really dig into this now, right? If we want to dig into this, we're going to get into the foundation engine, cool, like core piece of it. So this thing is basically going to provide all of the core things that we want. So at the very like foundation part of it, right? If you're building a business and you want to have one like mono repo, which is exactly what I have here. This whole thing's laid out as now as a mono repo. I did the whole microservices thing, and like deploying and synchronizing those deploys together is a total nightmare. I'm the only developer working on this, so I may as well have one repo where I can just open it up in NeoVim like it is here, and I have access to all my stuff, and it just kind of works. But what I set this up with was users, subscriptions. You know, users can have roles. At the heart of everything is an organization. So when you sign up for something, you're really like creating a user account and you're creating an organization account, and they're kind of linked together. Because what ends up happening in my like experience of doing this is you build a product, you build it for a user, there's a login, there's a sign up, and then someone comes along eventually and says, hey, I need the ability to like add users to my team, and those users should like have roles and permissions. And now they're like asking you to layer on an entire enterprise architecture on top of an architecture that you designed for single users. So I thought, hey, why not on day one? Let's not do that. Let's make our entire architecture based on organizations. And every user can be a member of an organization. They'll have a membership to it. That membership has roles of things that they're allowed to do. You know, are they allowed to like subscribe to new subscriptions? Are they allowed to create things and not? And you know, Rails has this like there's a few different ways to make sure that you're doing that kind of stuff right, but you can have this concept of policies. And inside of our policies, for example, like we might have this thing called action policy, and it basically is going to be like our base for how all of our policies work. And I'm going to get into something here because the more I went about doing this, the more I learned some stuff about engines and how I wanted to lay this out. So what you're going to find is that nearly almost everything in this foundational layer I implemented as a concern. It's like a mix-in most languages, or like a trait. Yeah, I think Scala, they call them traits. But basically, you have this thing that gets mixed into this class or this module, and it adds some functionality to it. And the reason I did this is because when we're starting up this invoice app that I was showing you before, it's mounting our foundation engine. Oh, and I like made multiple of these things. So if you were seeing in our apps, there's like 3 or 4 different apps, and there's like 2 different engines in here right now. Um, I found that like when you're working with AI, if it has multiple of something, it can like figure out the abstractions way better than if it thinks it's the only one and then it codes it just for that. So by having like multiple engines here and showing like, okay, here's what like 2 different apps look like in this monorepo, it can figure out that this is a concept of, hey, there's going to be more than one of these things and I need to program stuff that way. So back to our stuff over here is when you're going to see like a lot of this stuff is not implemented in the classes. It's actually implemented in concerns. And the reason for that is because when I'm mounting an engine into something like Invoice App, or I'm mounting Foundation Engine into something like Starter App, it becomes very easy based on the Zitework autoloaders to override any methods or classes or any like functionality that I've implemented in the Foundation Engine. Because basically what it's doing is it's going to load the Foundation Engine stuff. It's going to, if I didn't have these concerns, it would like load the Foundation Engine functionality and just like attach it. But if I have these concerns, all I have to do is actually go in, add a new concern to the engine that is pulling in the Foundation Engine, and it like, I can either like reopen the class, which is, you know, something you can totally do. You can reopen a class, change the methods. I mean, this go wild with this stuff. But it's not always guaranteed the order. I mean, maybe it is guaranteed the order of stuff's going to happen, but I don't like it. But what I really like about the fact that if all this stuff is concerns that I'm mixing in, is in the final layer, whether it's an app layer or an engine app layer, like our Invoice app over here, is I can explicitly include all of the mix-ins from things, or the concerns from the Foundation Engine into that specific class in that specific engine. So it's like you kind of get to pull what you want from different places. I think I might be able to go over a place where I did this to the absolute extreme. Yeah. So let's see. Let's see if this is actually gonna work. Oh, hey, it does work. Okay. So, for example, here is a concern that grabs all of, this is like our base for like our whole application. And it grabs all these different things like, you know, our authorization, you know, if eventually some point you have like a support person and someone's going, oh, this thing's wrong on my account. So I added this like impersonatable thing, terms of service, like all these different things, right? And you can see how easy it is to just include the thing. And so in any of my engines, if I really need to be able to like override this behavior, I can just like re-include it and it overrides it. Or I can like mix and match the things that I actually need. All right, so kind of went on a tangent there, but yeah, the base idea is that we get all of these things from our Foundation Engine. And so I went through, we have organizations, we have users, we have subscriptions, we have roles, we have price, product. This sort of thing right here is because I figured as a business, we better implement Stripe. So in here we have Stripe already all wired up. I even wired up Stripe Connect in case I want to have marketplace type stuff. And then I tried to figure out a good way to do like pricing where no matter what application I want to end up building, I can have a layer of pricing in there where I can create things like boosters. So let me back up to this idea that I had. So imagine you're playing like a video game. And in the video game, you have all these like stats, right? Health points, HP, mana, stamina, you know, whatever. All right, so you have like strength. Some stat that the game is like built up based on like what armor you have or anything like that. And then all of a sudden you get this like power up, right? And maybe it's like an item that you added, it's a potion you took or whatever, but it increases your stats. So all of a sudden now, instead of having 100 health points, you get 20% more of your base and now you got like 120 health points. Or maybe you get like a fixed number where it's all of a sudden you're getting like you're going from 100 health points to an extra 50 health points fixed, so you're at 150 health points now. Every time I use a SaaS product that has subscriptions, it is like if you go out today and you want to use Codex, right? You pay $200 a month for this AI thing, and your only option when you hit the end is to pre-purchase all these credits, and then you just start burning through them wildly at whatever rate they seem to just feel like setting that week. And so now you're spending like an unknown amount of money every month, and I've really just never been comfortable with that idea that, like, even if it's a business, I don't like this idea that I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna do something and it's gonna cost some unknown amount of money. That's just poor business planning in general. Um, if I'm managing teams of engineers and they're going and they're building something, I can absolutely guarantee that I have to go to the leadership and I have to say, here's how long this thing's going to, here's what it's going to cost. I need this amount of money and here's why. And if I go, oh, I have no idea how long it's going to take, I have no idea how much money it's going to cost, they're going to kind of laugh at me and say, all right, well, come back with a number so that we can allocate it to our budget and then we'll give you a budget. So to me, the idea of this whole like post billing thing that everyone was doing early on with AI was just absolutely terrible. Like that, the $200 a month plan for the normal average user is great. Here's some amount of limits that you have. You can go build, you can do stuff. And when you use up your credits, like you have to wait till next week or next month till they refresh. I love that. That's great. And so the whole idea that I've decided to do is have every record in our database is like this resource, right? And there's a finite amount of resources. Let's say like I'm sending emails. Every email that you send out of a product, whether you're sending it through AWS or one of these like email platforms, I think people used to use like SendGrid or now there's like Cloudflare can send emails. Anytime you use one of these things, they're like charging you per 1,000 emails you send or something like that. So there's an underlying cost when you build a product that has limited resources. It is using those resources and it has a cost overhead to it. And so what I've basically done is structured this entire foundation that way so that if I'm sending out emails for an organization, that we're tracking the number of emails we're sending and we're metering it and saying, okay, like each one of these has an underlying cost for us. Our business needs to make money, so we need to make sure we're not losing money and just sending so many of these things out the door and hoping that, we're not losing money because people aren't using the feature enough. It's honestly like one of my gripes with Anthropic early on is they kind of had this gym business model where it was like sign up for a $200 a month coding plan and then they were hoping that no one would actually use it or something and then everyone would pay $200, and then when it turns out that all these people are signing up for this $200 a month coding plan and they're all using their gym memberships and the gym is completely full, now they have like not enough servers to actually serve all their customers that they sold all these plans to, and so they have to like throttle people like crazy. So anyway, I think it's a good idea to model your business on day one so it's profitable. Like you're either going to build a profitable business or you're not going to build a profitable business, and then what you're building is a charity and you're giving stuff away, right? So all of that has been modeled this way. And this idea of boosters really comes from the fact that, like, let's say you have a SaaS product and there's some like base subscription things that you get with it. and I think Stripe calls them like entitlements. So let's say you purchase some subscription and it says, going back to our invoice demo app here. Let's say you purchased so many invoices, okay? And I think what I can even do here, because I'm pretty sure I deployed this, should be deployed by this point. What's up? So here it is. It's deployed. I'm going to get into all that stuff and how we did that. But right now, this is invoice software for construction crews that move dirt or something. Like if you need to send out an invoice because you're a contractor, this product's live. You can go use it today. And I'm going to kind of like walk through what I did for it. So the idea, right, is let's say you're a business and you want to offer like a free plan or even a pro plan. The things that you're offering in this SaaS subscription has a resource strain on your business. So for my business, for this invoicing software that we've come up with, let's say if I had a customer that came along and they created like 1 billion invoices per month, every one of those invoices now has to be stored in my database, and I have to also do things like generate PDFs of these invoices, which takes some computation on my server. Maybe I've got to do things like send emails. So, if there's a feature where someone wants to be able to send an email to someone, send with a PDF in it to like one of their customers, then I have to pay for every email that someone sends. So if I give them like 1,000 emails a month, that has some underlying cost with whatever upstream providers I'm using to send emails with, right? Like maybe that's another SaaS provider and they have resources that they have to figure out, what their costs are. So let's if we model this in a way that like each of these entitlements, these things, right, is some like finite resource, then it becomes really simple to track this kind of stuff. Because all I have to do now is like meter it, and you can meter it with Stripe, you can meter it internally in your database, however like you really think you need to do it. But the way that I did it was to meter each like resource and have a resource limit, and that gets included as a concern into any models for specific apps and that sort of thing. Right, so now we have all these different concerns and we have like resource limits, and this thing, because it's like included and it has table name and all that stuff, just becomes super easy for down the road if we build another app. Go in here and do something like, if I have an invoice record, our invoice now tracks the resource usage of what, how many of these rows that we have, or how many like we're creating in a given billing period that a given subscription has in Stripe. These things get tracked easily and nicely now. So I went from a place where, okay, every new product that I build is going to have to implement all these things like tracking resources, metering, implement Stripe, implementing organizations and sending and emailing, to a really simple place now where all I have to do is focus purely on modeling the core business logic of that application. And I just mount the foundation engine and I get all these things for free. And as a solo entrepreneur, I think I mean, this is like day two. So I think that's going to help speed a lot of this stuff up. Um, yeah, so let me kind of go through this real quick. So if we were to pull up our app, may as well demo some of the actual interesting things in here to y'all. So, I mean, this stuff is like so easy to build now with AI. It's unbelievable. Like this whole invoice app, you know, polished up in a day. It was insane. Um, but now we have like this dashboard here, and with things like, oh, this is like a demo account. So things like, you know, do you want light mode or dark mode? Boom. Um, this is all in here. And this whole like sidebar type thing is really easy for me to manage now because I can just drop this into any app. But I can create, you know, if I'm some big organization and I'm like, hey, I need another team, big co team, and I create the team. Now I have a whole new organization that I can work in from here. Like it's going to get this billing stuff automatically. I automatically get the resources that I've attached. So remember we talked about like how many PDFs can they generate in a month or how many email sends can they do? You know, what's their how many team members can they have in a given, you know, workspace, like on their team based on the plan they're on, or this is kind of like a way of me thinking about, all right, so for all time, if I'm on a free plan, do we really want users to be able to just use this forever at like 25 invoices a month or whatever, like the thing is that we're going to end up building? So it seems like workspaces have capacities. If you go to say AWS or DigitalOcean or Hetzner, I can almost guarantee they're not going to let you sign up for an account on day one and then go and build, you know, spawn 100,000 servers that day on a brand new account. Like your account's going to have some limits and quotas on it. Um, but I think you should also allow people to like vote with their money. So like if they're going to pay for you this stuff up front, then it should like increase this kind of thing. Um, so this whole stuff just works. You can do the add-ons with the boosters and all that. Um, you know, if I want to go through now an entire Stripe workflow, I can do that. And it shows our billing history. And then, you know, this whole like idea of teams and members, and maybe I want to invite like a new member, or maybe want to create a new invoice. You could go through and do that. You know, our invoices, you can email them out if you need to download PDFs, keeps track of all your businesses and your customers and that sort of thing. So this is like our demo day one app, right? Like this is just get something out the door. What is the simplest thing we could possibly have built? And you know, it should come with all these like foundational things. I don't think that if I'm going and I'm building a new product because I have some idea that I want to go and rebuild the user settings again. Like why would I do that? Why would I have this mental overhead where I have to go and say, okay, now I got to go like put the user settings thing in there for this app and then this app and this, and maybe like, oh, I want to go and I want to change this time zone functionality. I should be able to update this in one place, and in all the places it's now just going to update. I mean, that's like foundational basic engineering stuff, right? But I don't think people usually think about it in terms of if I have a product or I'm like a solo developer and I have all these different products and all this overhead of complexity, eventually I'm going to get bogged down in complexity and I'm not going to be able to just go add a feature to say our team membership stuff, right? If I wanted to like go in and change how roles work, um, I can't just go in and maybe add some new thing here and make sure that it goes to all my sites. Like I'd have to go in and change the code for every single one of the sites. And I think bigger or larger organizations, what they'll do is they'll start to like they'll start small with like this like core product offering. And then they'll like add more people, more engineers, and they'll grow and they'll grow and they'll grow. And then all of a sudden it'll get like too big for all of the people on the team to like go manage all the features, right? Like it gets to a point where one person doesn't know all the things. And so they like split it up into little teams. And each of those little teams then like grows and grows and grows. And they got to split that up into little teams. And you have this like expanding and contracting of people resources and stuff that happens because you're inheriting like cognitive overhead and technical debt. And I think with AI, that stuff's going to get a little bit easier because um, let's say you had 100 different products and they all had this organization roles screen, and I wanted to like add some new feature to this screen, I could easily tell the AI to go look at the 100 products and change it for every single one of them. And it's just going to like go off and do it and then come back and tell me when it's done. But that's not great, right? Like it's not, I don't think we should strive for that. I think what we should strive for is taking our common things and putting them in the common place. And so that's really what I tried to achieve here because I want to go and I want to build a lot of different products, and I'm hoping we're going to do that in the stream together here. And as we go and we build these things, and to be clear, this was mostly not vibe coded. Like I had to engineer, right? Like I had to sit down and be an engineer because if you vibe code an AI thing, it's more like iterations. It's back and forth with the AI saying, now do this, go do this. Okay, what if we do this? And the AI at some point, if you tell it to, might pull out these common code things into your foundational layer or abstractions, right? And architect it. But I just wanted to do that from day one so I wouldn't have to worry about it. And so that's where we're at. Um, yeah, I don't know if I have anything else that I wanted to go over with this today. If you have any questions, drop a comment or something like that. So the other cool thing about, you know, going and doing stuff this way is that we're going to have the ability now to sit here and just think about, okay, what's like the next thing that we want to build? And if I go and I say, all right, I was thinking about this yesterday. I've got Stripe, I've got like the Stripe Connect stuff. I can easily go and build like I could easily go and build like a marketplace or something. But I think the next thing that I really am thinking about here is what happens if I want to go and I want to like build software, like actual um like a buy one software. And I think maybe that's going to be like some licensing stuff. So I might tackle that. Oh, we have someone in the chat. Lucky. Yes. Sure. What's up? Mind if I ask your opinion on something? Yeah, go ahead. Okay. Yeah, it's not a problem. Okay. So you got a friend, uh, or you're getting into going to school and into university and thinking about going to talk to some students. You should do some vlogging to maybe get a good internship. Mhm. So I guess the question is, or at least so far, Lucky's asking if I'm going to university this year and I want to get a good internship, should I start doing some vlogs about things that are happening in tech? Yeah. I mean, if that's if that's something you want to do, right? Like if you want to get your name out there, I think that streaming's probably a pretty good way to do it, or vlogging's probably a good way to do it. Um, I would also suggest though, like if you want to go into a career like tech, I don't know, like what are you thinking about going to school for? Oh, oh wait, I guess if you're looking to go to school for say computer science or programming or IT or anything, I personally feel like that is the time to go deep on that thing. When you're in school, go learn as much as you can about that. Um, if you want to go out and vlog about it, yeah, if you want to do like CS and hardware development, that's awesome. Um, the best way to learn something is to try and teach it to somebody else. So if you're going to do like a vlog where you can go and you can um, find out like, okay, here's something that's happening in tech this week, and then go research like how does that thing work? Maybe more than just the like surface level headline of what that thing actually is that was launched. Um, that's a really cool way to like keep up with what's going on and also start, figuring out what sort of niches you want to get into and what you want to learn about. Uh, I definitely would recommend that. I know back when I was in school, I was really into security and like cybersecurity and that sort of thing. And so I started reading like all these books on cybersecurity, and then when there was other people that were interested in it, I would just kind of talk about it with them and like teach them the things that I learned. And that's like one of the really great ways to just reinforce the neural pathways in your own mind. If you want to do this as like a hack, if you want to do any kind of uh, vlogging or streaming as like a hack to get an internship, I don't really know if that's the best way to get an internship because if I'm someone and I'm running a business and I want to go hire a bunch of interns, it's because like I want to bring new people into the company. Maybe I have some technology that I want people to learn, or maybe I just have a really big business and I've got a lot of extra funding and I can afford to bring in some interns and give them some good experience. um, but at the end of the day, anytime a business is hiring you and bringing you in to do something, it's because they have a need or something that they're trying to fill. So the best way for you to go and like get a good internship is to go deep and learn something, so that when you go to that company, you're coming out of university with fresh knowledge of what's going on in the field, and you could contribute to that thing that you're going to be working on. Like, you can bring in some fresh ideas. Now, I think most companies are not going to expect a lot of their out of their interns, right? Like, they usually give you like a nice summer project or something to work on, and if you happen to complete it, like, they're pretty happy about that. But some interns are absolute rock stars. Like, they go deep on the things early on. They'll build stuff and demo it out, and that's like maybe sometimes how they get the internship in the first place, as they've done some cool thing and some company like really needs to use that thing. And I think you'll find that that kind of even translates into the real world even after university too. Is like, if I'm going to build this cool product that the world needs, there's a pretty good chance that when I get out into the real world, like, I could actually sell it to all the businesses that need it. And now you go from like this mindset of, hey, this is an internship, I did this thing as like a hack to get my foot in the door of a company, to I just built something that actually companies want to pay me for. Like, they're coming to me now, and now I can go and I can sell this to lots of different businesses. Um, so that's just my take on the school thing. Circling around real quick back to what we were talking about. The next thing I think I have on the list here is going to be uh, just maybe like copying our simple invoice app engine that went over and enhancing it and building out some way to just manage licenses. I know there's like a whole industry of software products that people have gone out and they've built these licenses, and basically it's like licensing software for managing licenses. Um, but I really, in the 90s, we had this like super easy way of generating software licenses. You had to kind of had this like key generator, and then you had like a random seed, and then that seed would like apply a new key, and people would just go into the software and extract the generator out, and now you could generate any number of licenses you wanted to. It's usually illegally, of course, but like, people did it. I think there's probably better ways to do that nowadays, and I think what we'll do is we'll probably start by going through and just asking AI what it thinks the current ways of doing that are. And I'm going to guess it has to do with just signing some certificates and then ensuring that like we're issuing certificates and maybe they expire, maybe they don't expire, and when a certificate's issued, and you open up this, let's say we're going to make like a Mac OS app or something. We'll have the Mac OS app open, and then maybe it'll reach back out to the key server and say, you know, hey, I need a certificate, or maybe the certificate it got last time it opened is still valid, so it'll just reuse it. And then at that point, we've got a nice foundational layer. Like, we've got this entire web thing. Like, we can stand up sites super easily, right? So that's all of this foundational stuff that we've built. Um, so in fact, all of this is actually now in a Kamal deploy. So these three different sites, this Dozer invoice, this simple invoice generator, this watermark, I just tried to think of some random domain names that had to do with like invoicing. Sometimes you like see a draft on an invoice or something. There's a watermark on it. Anyway, they're all just mounting this invoice app. So this invoice app is mounting Foundation. And each of these apps are mounting invoice apps. So they get foundation and they get invoice app. And so now I can actually deploy 3 different websites, 3 different databases, and I've got it all just super easily able to do all of that. And so if we were to do this, like I can even show you. What this looks like when we deploy that. All right, so now let's say I have 3 different domains, and I want to deploy them up to my server. Had the AI do this, right? Like it just pushes it out with Kamal. This is why Ruby on Rails is great. It comes with all this like base stuff. It comes with Kamal. You can just throw your new apps and you can tell the AI, hey, I have my server here. Here's my, you go into GitHub, you set up a GitHub action with your Kamal deploy. And now anytime I commit my Git changes, it automatically pushes out to like my staging server. I can create a new Git tag for a given commit, and then that thing automatically will just go and push out to our production environment. And then it's like as simple as, okay, I'm just gonna like go grab a domain. I'm gonna go to Cloudflare or whatever, and I just set up a new domain for this. So boom boom, let's make me smaller here, because I don't need to be in that whole window. And I'll show you what I mean here. So we have a Dozer invoice that I showed you, a watermark invoice site. This one's actually different, right? Because remember I told you, um, since we're layering these things, like one app is basically extending another app, it becomes super easy to do things like change the theme, change the landing page. These two are just like an identical copy, but they sit under their own, they're on their own app. They have their own like database. You could wire them up to their own Stripe keys, like whatever you need to do. And even our app here is also on its own. I mean, these are all deployed in like a single VPS. It's great. Like I can go in here into our code base now, and I could go buy 100 different invoicing domains, and I could deploy 100 different SaaSes that are all doing the same thing under the hood if I really wanted to. And if I really want to tweak them, like if I want to add like some special thing to it, like I did with say Dozer invoice because I wanted to demo this off, I can easily change the landing page so that this one gets a different landing page. And these 2 random ones are basically getting the same landing page, with the exception of like maybe the name is being injected into the template. And so that's the idea, right? It's lay this foundation to the point where now I can go out and I can easily just say, I have this business concept that I want to do, and then go and build out like just the business logic for that thing and not have to worry about users and not have to worry about payments and all of the things that come around with that, right? If I want to go and build some licensing software where people can get assigned a license for say like a Mac app that they've built, all I have to do now is go and say, okay, well, the business concepts, I just need to model them in my database and say, well, maybe, an organization can create many different licensed products, and that licensed product can have many different people who have purchased the license. And those people that have purchased the license maybe can each register the license to so many different machines. And now that I've modeled that in my models in my database, all I have to do is create the controllers that add the logic. And all I got to do is build that. I don't have to add users in again. I don't have to add payments in again. All of that's in there because I just mount my foundation now. Yeah, exactly. You build the baseline idea, what you sell. Yeah. Yeah. So, it's like, I think a lot of people that go out there, a lot of, especially early on in your career as a programmer, people will go out and they will try and build a SaaS product. Like they're like, I got this big idea. I'm going to go build this thing. And they like, and I know I used to do this. So I would just like start from day one. I was like, okay, generate a new app. Maybe you're doing Rails and it's generating like some scaffolding for you. And then you want to go in and, you add users, you add passwords, you add all this like the stuff that you have to add for it to be a SaaS. It's not just like open a website and you have like this to-do list or something. Like if you want to sell it, now you have to wrap it with all these things. Um, so I built that first, and that's where we're at. And I think I've iterated on that enough. So I'm gonna just see if there's any final questions and wrap this stream up. What are licenses? Well, okay. If I have a Mac OS app, right? Let's say you're buying Photoshop or something, and you download Photoshop onto your computer, and then you go and you open it up, and it's like, oh well, please enter your license key. And maybe they email you that license key, or back in the 90s there was like a sticker that you had to peel off and it would be on there, and then you'd type it all in, and that would grant you access to the product. So for me, if I want to go and build some software now and it's like a desktop app, you have to download and install, and then you open it up, and how do I assign a license to you, right? Like I have to charge you for it. You got to charge your credit card. So probably do that through Stripe. I got to generate the license and give it to you. And you got to be able to inject it into your running program so that it registers and it says, I'm a valid program and I am like registered to this machine. And there's lots of companies that do this, right? Like there's lots of companies out there that will uh, manage these license keys and hand them out and all of that stuff. But as I go through this and build this business up, anytime I see something that I need, I feel like I'm just going to build it. My motto for startups, if you go raise a whole bunch of money, your job is not to go build it. Your job is to go burn that pile of cash quickly by hiring a lot of people, building a lot of stuff, finding a product market fit, and getting it out the door. And you should definitely not do side quests. But if you're a solopreneur and you are trying to build your own business from the ground up, you may as well start at the ground and build the foundations so that you know everything that you have and you can use them and modify them so that they work the way you want them to work. All right, so rehash, that is the theme of this stream today, as we have built this foundational layer, and that is going to help us accelerate everything that we are going to build here going forward. So if you like this, please like the video, subscribe to it. It's going to be on X, on Twitch, and on YouTube. And I will see you all for day 3. All right.